Hey there, it's Nikas. Sorry, I got a little bit of a sore throat thing going on. Those of you who know me and have kind of known what I've been going through this past week, I'm sure you get it. For those of you who don't know, I was admitted last week in the hospital for 5 days to find out what's going on with my runny nose, sore throat, and last week was fevers, no fevers this week, just trying to figure it all out. So, wanted to make sure there's no COVID that was involved, make sure there was no flu that was involved, make sure and last week the infectious disease doctors found nothing. And this week, as I was released and off IV medications, the symptoms slowly returned, and it's gotten so bad to the point where I just can't swallow. I can take pain meds to be able to swallow, and yet, I was like, oh no, paranoid. And yet, nobody would write me for this codeine cough syrup, right? Which is kind of like, that's the most ideal thing because it's localized, it just gets rid of the stuff, and it allows you to eat and drink. So for this past week, I haven't been able to really take in as much fluids as necessary to do my chemotherapy, or oral chemotherapy, nor have I been able to take in as much solid foods as necessary to be able to have a full stomach to take your chemotherapy on, because it requires that you have a lot of fluid and actually food in your system, so that you don't get sick, vomit it back up and whatnot. So that hasn't happened for the last week. And what has happened is it's been very, very difficult to get a doctor, either my primary care, my cancer doctor, my pain management doctor. Nobody's wanted to take responsibility for this, and they're all of a sudden their pens all stopped working or ran out of ink or something, and nobody wanted to put their name on the issue. Although I feel like I've been doing everything on my side. I actually checked into the hospital. I followed directions. I did what was necessary, and what was found out was nothing. And here I am still with the same symptoms, and what alleviates that symptoms is codeine cough syrup. I'm not looking for a codeine cough syrup with 1,000 refills, which would ding on somebody's medical license. But one bottle of codeine cough syrup until this thing is sorted out would not. So anyway, there's been a huge struggle for me as far as pain management goes, and pain medications, and just being in an incredible amount of pain this last week. And so whereas one doctor is trying to extend my life with chemotherapies and different types of therapeutics to handle the cancer, that same doctor is unwilling to write anything that would give me a quality and comfort of life that was adequate for extended life. So, I felt like I was in this bit of a war, this bit of a struggle with these doctors. And, I'm very clear about not being in a war with cancer, because, I think that's something that a lot of people, oh, you gotta fight the cancer, you gotta win, and I, for me, it's not about fighting cancer. It's about, making friends with cancer, and doing whatever is necessary, whatever becomes obvious at this point to take care of it. And for me, chemotherapy became something that it was obvious. It was the obvious next step to take as far as what was just going to get done. But there was no fight, and I want to make that really clear. It's like I wasn't trying to fight anything. I was just trying to do the next right indicated step, and that was chemotherapy. So what I did notice over these last couple days was I was in a fight. Suddenly I was fighting. But what I was fighting was not the cancer. What I was fighting was the medical establishment, and I was fighting the doctors who weren't giving me quality of life, which I felt I deserved. And you can't extend my life and then not do anything to make me feel good. This whole narrative that was in my head that was just was creating so much stress and drama in my life because I wasn't getting my way, and it just seemed so obvious to me and anyone I spoke to other than the doctors that well, of course, I mean, duh, this is, and yet it wasn't happening. And so in the last 24 hours, what finally sort of came to me was the fact of God just saying, listen, Nikas, I've got you. Let go. Just stop fighting. Let go. Let me take care of things. I've got you. Just fall back into my arms and let go. And so that's what I've done. I had a follow-up appointment with my cancer doctor today, and I prayed right before I went in and said, God, please give me the right words to be able to make this a non-contentious, a not fight appointment where I can walk out of this appointment with what it is that I'm looking for, which is a referral to hospice. Hospice is, I used to be a volunteer in a hospice organization. Hospice is, it's an end of life. There's palliative care, which is almost end of life, and then hospice is end of life. And hospice is all about comfort, keeping the client comfortable. But the thing about hospice is you have to be ready to give up all other prior treatments. So that means I have to give everything up. Chemotherapy, anything that's going to be life extending has to be willing to be ended. And so it's interesting because this last 24 hours, I've always known that was going to be something that was going to happen at some point. I just didn't know when that thing was going to happen. And then suddenly in the last 24 hours, it became very, very clear to me that this is the time. This is the time for that to happen. And so I was like, oh, okay. So when I got this message of, God saying, just let go, just fall into my arms, I've got you. I'm like, oh, I can do that. I can totally do that. And then praying before I went in for this appointment, asking for the right words so the appointment was not contentious and not full of you shoulda and you coulda and none of that. Just simply, hey, so I've had a change of heart, and I'm not looking to do chemotherapy anymore. I'm not looking to extend my life any longer. I'm looking to let it all go. And I'm hoping to walk out of here today with a referral to hospice. And I can't tell you how simple it went and how well it was received by the doctor. I mean, there was a little bit of backgroundness of this, that, or the other, but nothing that if I didn't react to would be of any consequence. The reality was I went in to get a hospice referral, and I walked out that door with a hospice referral. Actually, what I walked out with was an agreement that I could call the guy tomorrow and say, yeah, this one, not that one, because there's 2 hospices I'm gonna interview tomorrow in the afternoon and see which one internally just feels like the correct one to go with. So I'm gonna have those interviews tomorrow afternoon, and then as soon as I have them, I will notify the oncologist, who will then write a referral to that particular hospice. So that's what's happening. That's what's going on lately in this life. I'm ready. It's like I feel as though all the lessons that this lifetime has to offer, or almost, because the lifetime's not over yet, they are almost complete. And I don't feel like there's anything I need to kind of stick around for. It feels like all of the teachings, and I'm still alive, so there's probably a few more of these going on. All of the teachings are nearly complete. So everything feels nearly complete. And therefore it feels like it's perfectly fine to just let go into the arms of the universe that's got me, yeah, I wouldn't say it's a giving up. That's one of the responses that I've been getting online is like, oh, you gotta fight, you gotta be strong, you gotta not give up, and so to those people who would consider this to be a giving up, I don't really look at it like that. Surrender, perhaps, is a better word, but surrender to me just means putting down your fucking weapons, walking over to the winning side, and awaiting to take direction. Putting down your motherfucking weapons. You're at war. You're trying to win. This thing is trying to win. Right? Putting down your weapons, walking over to the winning side, the side that's winning. This isn't winning. This is losing. It knows it's losing. It's trying to win at all costs. Putting down those weapons of war, walking over to the winning side, and just waiting to take direction from divine, from God, from this universal consciousness that knows exactly what it's doing. So, one of the things that has come up for me is the word invitation, and so I kind of thought I'd speak on that for a second. I just got a text message I got to answer really fast. Hold on one sec. Okay, sorry about that. A friend's coming over to help sort of keep my house together because I don't know if you can see things have kind of gotten away from me. I don't really have all the health and energy that I need to keep a clean house. So my pal is coming over to just help me straighten up and keep things going. So yeah, so I needed to answer that text really fast. So where was I? So the word invitation has come up quite a bit, and it's interesting. I was like, okay, God, so what do you mean invitation? Where do you want me to take that? And I make these videos not because there's some schedule that I'm on that says it's time to make a video, but I make these videos because I get this little knock, 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 and I'm like, yes, and it says it's time to make a video, and oh, okay, it's time to make a video. So so I sit down and make a video, and sometimes I know what the topic is, and sometimes I don't, and it so happens that this one came with a topic, and the topic was invitation. And so as I sat down right now, I'm like, okay, I'm not really 100% sure what you mean by invitation, but if you could fill me in, that would be great, because And sure enough, here we are. I'm not 1,000% sure where this is going, but what I do know is, part of the invitation for me was the invitation of letting go, the invitation to surrender, the invitation to stop trying to sort of control the outcome, to stop just that simple invitation of like, hey, I got you. I really got you, Nikas. But the only way I can actually really get you is you got to let go completely. And that's something that us human beings, I know myself and just about everybody I've ever talked to, it's really hard to let go absolutely. To let go without any preconditions, to let go without any anything that I've kind of squirreled away in the pocket of yeah, except for this. So really to let go absolutely into God is really the willingness to die. You know, in Alcoholics Anonymous, step 6 is really all about allowing something else to kind of come in and take over. It's kind of like, who would I be if I let go of all of the things that have run me? In 4 and 5 and 4 and 5, I see all the things that are running me. I'm being ran by my thoughts and my fears and my, all my ideas of me. And but in step 6 and 7, it's like kind of like, okay, well, letting all that stuff go, but then being run by what? Because if I'm not going to be run by my thoughts and ideas, what am I going to be run by? And this is a big this is a biggie for most people in program, and it's a biggie for most people. Step 9 is where in this particular program, Alcoholics Anonymous, one has a spiritual awakening. One awakens to the fact that, oh, I'm not just this little simple human being with this narrow, amount of thinking. I'm actually part of the infinite itself. Oh, okay. I gotcha. I gotcha. So to spiritually awaken is, to suddenly be run by an entirely new set of thoughts, ideas, and emotions. In the enlightenment circles, enlightenment is basically a relinquishing of self, a relinquishing of ego, a relinquishing of all the ideas. My teacher Adyashanti always talks about, you know, what parts do you have to let go of, in order to awaken, in order to become enlightened in its truest sense. And the answer is absolutely everything. You don't get to hold back anything. You don't get to squirrel away a little lockbox that has the stuff in there that you won't, let get touched. It's like, are you willing to let everything go? Even ideas, that, let's say, are noble, or of good intention. Are you willing to let those go too? Because everything means everything, and everything meaning everything is a really tough nut for this head to wrap itself around. And yet, that's what's being asked. In order to truly spiritually awaken, I have to be willing to let go of every single thought, idea, emotion, uh, all these things that run me, that I've been holding on to tightly to make my decisions in my life. So what does that mean? So how would I act if I didn't if I didn't have any motivations that were based upon me? I mean, wouldn't that mean I'd just be some blob on the couch that would just crack a beer and, not do anything? Um, no, that's not what that means. What that means is that you would live the exact same life that you're living right here, right now, in presence, right here, right now, and yet you would take your direction from a different place. Rather than taking your direction from here, you'd be taking your direction from here. So, deep down in every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God, right? So, what's God's idea on this? Well, all I need to look is deep down inside and see what God's idea is. I call that my intuition. Has my intuition ever been wrong? Have I not followed my intuition? How'd that go for me? So it's but did I learn from not following my intuition? Yes. So is there anything I can do that's wrong? Is there anything in this lifetime that I can do that is actually wrong? And the answer is no, there really isn't, because everything is a learning experience. I have my own personal teaching that's there are no accidents, there are no mistakes, there are only blessings. Only. Only is a pretty big darn word, because that means there's nothing in the world except blessings. If there aren't any mistakes, there aren't any accidents, and you're saying the only thing left after those ideas, right? Because a accident or a mistake is based upon a thought, right? Which comes from my narrow window of thinking of like, oh, well, that shouldn't have been, or that could have went better, or that didn't go as planned, or that blah, 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 right? So there's what is, and then there's my narrative about what is. And so if my narrative about what is at all different than what is, then what's messed up is my narrative, not what is, because what is, and what ain't, ain't. But if my narrative is different than what is, then we've found the source of the problem. In Alcoholics Anonymous, that's what we're looking for in steps 4 and 5. There's a line in the book that talks about the third step. It's a vital and crucial step. If at once followed by a strenuous effort to face and be rid of the things that have been blocking us. So this third step, turning my will and my life over to God, right, can only be effective if I'm willing to sit down and search out the things inside myself. My fear, my resentment, my guilt, shame, and remorse, right? The things that are working against me, which, as it turns out, is just in my narrow world of thought, right? It's never my intuition. That's never working against me. It's just this narrow little world up here, which I've somehow come to think is like the answer to everything. And yet, in this whole spiritual awakening thing, one thing, oh, well, wouldn't that be, if my head's crazy, wouldn't it be just a great idea to let it go? Well, yeah, it'd be a great idea, but in practice, is it really that easy? And the answer is no. There's another line in the big book, Alcoholics, simple, but not easy. Is the idea of letting everything go simple? Yeah. Any ding dong on the street can do it. Is it easy? Well, that's a whole other story. Because that gets into a whole nother ball of wax. Simple, but not necessarily easy. So the invitation to let go, the invitation to awaken, the invitation for enlightenment is basically the invitation to die. In the 11th step prayer or the St. Francis prayer, it says to die before we die, right? It's like an egoic death. It's an egoic suicide almost, because you're actually choosing to do it. It's not just you just turned the corner real quick and all of a sudden somebody shot your ego and your ego died. It's actually there's a choice involved. And so you know it says in the big book that we could have moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them even if we wished or tried. We had to have God's help. So what I've learned is that this whole idea of falling back into God, of letting go of the crazy in my head, of just letting go of this body completely, I just need God's help. And so I ask, and if you truly ask, it will truly be given. If you truly ask, you will truly be given. So that's what I ask for. I ask for this sort of completeness. So back to the word invitation. This is an invitation. God has given me an invitation to completely surrender, to completely let go into God, to die before I die. And it's a beautiful thing. Where else could that word invitation go? The word invitation could also be an invitation to you guys watching to perhaps change your perspective on this thing called death. It's like we all look at death as this final, last moments of life sort of thing that's, going to be awkward and yucky and painful or who knows what, but it's something that we're not comfortable with on some level. Society as a whole is not comfortable with this death sort of thing. I mean, there are other societies in this world. The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying is an amazing book of how to live your life in preparation for death. And yet, is that what Americans do? No, we Botox and use filler and drink juices and have facelifts and do all this sort of stuff to extend, not willing to gracefully age, not willing to gracefully go out without a kicking and screaming match. So, invitation can also mean that, this is an invitation for everyone to sort of begin to have a different perspective. And when I say begin to have a different perspective, I mean just that. Just start beginning to look at things differently. Instead of there being so much fear and anxiety around death, well, what would death be if I didn't have my fear and anxiety around it? What would it be? Just start asking these questions of yourself. What would it look like if I wasn't afraid of? What would it look like if I didn't have a problem with no longer being? Because right now I'm being, and oh my gosh, it seems as though in death I'm not being anymore. But the question is that true? And I think that's really the invitation, is to start looking at, like, is that true? If I am that which is, right? If that which is animating this thing called Nikas, right? If that which is literally coming in and animating this thing called Nikas, that upon the moment of my death will no longer be coming in and animating this thing, and I'll just be a slab of meat laying on a countertop somewhere, right? So what would I be if that changed? If the idea of that, how would life be different? If I wasn't afraid of that, if that suddenly became okay. So yeah, so invitation could also be that. Um, invitation could also be an invitation to ask questions. One of my dear friends the other day sent me back a message regarding my last video that just said, "Wow, taking some time to absorb that. Can't imagine what you're going through." And it's funny because invitation came up right when I read that. Invitation also came up because it's like, well, the cool thing is you don't have to imagine. You could call me up and ask, and so just as I spoke in the last video about talking to my grandfather and asking lots of questions, I feel like I've been graced lately with people calling me up and asking me questions about death and about my death and about where I'm at and what's going on. And I think that part of invitation is literally giving everyone in my life an invitation to to grow in the aspect of learning how to ask questions about death. Um, you know, because it's not particularly easy to, I mean, we have a couple standard answers. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there something I can do for you? And that's kind of it. I don't, maybe there's more. I don't know, but those the standard answers is, oh, I'm so sorry. Are you? I mean, what are you sorry for? Did you kill me? It's kind of like trying to be really sincere about where I'm going with this, as far as when I make these statements of, oh, I'm so sorry. Are you? What do you have to be sorry about? Um, so part of this invitation could also simply be an invitation to everyone to ask questions about what's going on, because it's only really through questioning do we find out answers. Otherwise, we sit over here and we make assumptions, right? And one of the four agreements from the book Don Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements, one of those agreements is do not assume anything, right? And so what's the way to not assume? Is to ask questions, right? Is it comfortable to ask questions? Of course not. Does asking questions fulfill us? Does it give us what we're really looking for? Of course it does. How often do we do it? Probably not enough. Um, is everyone open to questions? Possibly, possibly not. I think a question, when posed in a certain way to anybody, is something that is may I ask you questions about this? Hey, I've got these questions about, would you mind answering? It's all about how you set up a question, whether or not you're going to get a response that's what the response is going to look like. So learning how to ask questions, I think, is one of the magical parts of living a life that in truth. So part of the magical part of living a life in truth is actually answering questions in truth. But in the flip side is also asking questions in truth. Being willing to ask uncomfortable things, being willing to go outside your comfort zone and ask questions that you just wouldn't normally feel uh, comfortable asking. So, that's another way invitation could look. And as I'm asking internally, my connection to the divine, is there anything else you'd like me to say on invitation? I'm not really getting anything. So yeah. So I guess we'll stop there as far as what invitation means today. I'm sure there's many other things that it could mean, and I'm sure there's many other things that some of you are wondering and thinking, and the easiest way to get over wondering is to ask a question. So my invitation to everyone is contact me either through Facebook Messenger, or if you have my phone number, you're more than welcome to dial it. I'll just say it real quick. It's 213-884-2014. Nikas. 213-884-2014. If there's any questions I can answer, I'd be more than happy to answer questions. This is my invitation to you. As I've stated before, I'm doing this in a very sort of public. This death is happening in a very public way. I had no idea. I had no idea that this was going to go down like it is, but this is how it's going down, and this is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm offering. So if for some reason it feels right for you to want to like reach out, by all means, please reach out. I will say on my phone, I have the sort of do not disturb. I have an Apple iPhone, and there's a do not disturb feature. So from 7 p.m. at night until 7 a.m. in the morning, the do not disturb feature is on, unless I'm up and around and know I'm going to be up, and then I'll turn it off for a while. But no matter what, call, even if the do not disturb feature is on, leave a message. I will phone you back. Um, you know, I, I would invite you to utilize this invitation in a way that is satisfying for you, to be able to get down to any sort of core issues that death might bring up for you. Um, yeah, so there you go. You've gotten the update of what's going on with me. I'm headed down the hospice highway. How fast will happen? I don't know. How quick is death going to come? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But as I was mentioning to somebody the other day, the three most, I think, valuable spiritual words that anyone can utter is, I don't know. Because it just keeps us in a state of not knowingness, right? And if I ever start saying, oh, I know, I know, then at that point I'm in trouble. Because at the end of the day, I don't know. I really don't. But the one thing I always say is, I don't know, but I'm 100% willing to find out. Please show me. It's like literally my prayer is, I don't know. However, I'm 100% willing to find out, so please show me. And it's amazing the miracles, absolute miracles that can happen when I open myself up to this universal divine consciousness. So the invitation has been made. If you feel so inspired, would love to get a phone call from you. Coming up this next week, I'm looking at my phone, so I can't actually look at the date, but I think it's Saturday the 28th. Saturday the 28th of this month, which is May. We're going to have some friends have arranged to have a, quote, tribute call. So we're going to do like a Zoom, which I will attach in the comments section here. I'll actually have a Zoom number. Look on my Facebook page if you don't find it here right now, because they're putting together that aspect of it, and they haven't given me the number yet. So just as soon as I figure all that stuff out, there will be an invitation at least on my main Facebook page that talks about this event that's coming up. And this event is just if you'd just like to call and be part of it. I'm going to try to make it pretty short, like 45 minutes. They had said, do you want this like 60 minutes and an hour and a half? And I was like, how about like 45 minutes? So that anyone who decides to speak on the call, we'll just keep it down to, just a minute and a half or something of just, and then what was also suggested was that there would be a place where you could upload a video if you wanted to send something of a greater length, and there was something that you really wanted to share and put out there. And my girlfriend Milena said what she would do is she would collect all of these, compile all these videos into one large video message, and this will play as part of the. It'll play on my Facebook page once I am departed the planet, and so everyone can kind of hear what other people had to say, and I get to hear it before I get to listen to it beforehand too. And so anyway, I thought that was just a wonderful way of doing. She's called it a tribute, and I thought that was a lovely word. So yeah, so Saturday, May 28th. I'm not looking at a calendar, so don't shoot me if I got the days wrong. And I think it'll be at 5:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So, but like I say, just look on my Facebook page, the invitation. The invitation will be there for the tribute call as well. So, and information on where to upload a video if you should choose to do that instead. So thank you so much for being part of this journey with me, this public journey. This is amazing for me. Just the amount of like energy that this being gets to receive while I give these messages is just phenomenal. I mean, it's kind of like standing in this, in this blessing of this download blessing that's just unbelievable. So for me, this is amazing. I hope y'all get a little bit of something out of this for you too. But yeah, so thank you. Invitation. The invitation has been made. What will you do with it?